So here we're going to program the probe to do a centre point pickup of this part. Very simple part, we're just drilling these holes. It's a laser cut plate. So we've got a datum here of the middle and the middle here. So we're going to touch the probe on this side and this side and this side and this side to touch XY0 in the centre. So again, we go into our auxiliary process to find our NC language number 2. Again, along the bottom here, we've got some registered programs. So we've got we want to look for something that's going to be close to doing this. So we've got Y centre line and an X left subroutine here that we've called up. So this would teach the centre in Y, and it would also teach the edge on X. The other options don't really lend themselves, because this one here is X left, Y front, which will be teaching this corner down here. So we'll use this one here and manipulate it the way we need it to work. So we press the call button and brings the registered program up. So going through the Pro program here, first thing we check is our work offset, which is G54 in this case, so that's correct. Next thing we want to check is when our approach point comes down, that it's not going to approach into the material. We're not actually basing anything off this job, so Z10 is sufficient. If we had 50mm to take off, we would change that to Z60, for example. Our next line here, P9810, will teach the centre of the job in whatever address you've given it. So this address here is teaching its centre in Y. So we're currently 25mm in Y. So this value is actually correct of Y30. Z12 is actually going to go too deep because our part's only 3mm thick. So we only want to come down by -1.5. So if we go Z -1.5 alter, that will then change the amount the probe comes down below Z to teach the size of the job. We have our tolerance at Q10. So as we've got a bigger size here than what the material is, we do want that to be bigger than 5mm basically. It will allow for error in putting it in the vise. S1 will teach G54. We're then moving up to Z5 under a routine which will look for the probe to bump into anything. Then positioning our part to teach Z. So this is our P9811 is a line just teaching one edge. So in this case it's teaching Z. It's going to teach the Z at a value of 0 in G54, which is correct. We're not taking anything off the face of that job, so Z0 is where we want it to be. This is where it will get a little bit tricky, because this one, as we quickly explain, the X left part of this is teaching over here. We actually want to teach at the centre. So if there's any variation in the length of these parts, we'll still be in the centre of the job. So teaching on the X0 here, this particular line here is going to bring the job over potentially over this side of the job, and then touch on here. Now if there's any variation in the length, these holes are going to move away from centre. So we want to change that teaching line here to a P9812, which will teach centre, same as the P9812 up here. In order to do that though, we need to position the probe in an adequate position that's going to teach at 0. So you can see up here we've got X20. That value we can change to X0, and then the probe won't be moving anywhere in the lineal dimension at all. So we're going to get rid of this line because we don't need this line anymore. And this next line here we don't need either. What we do need here is a line that's just going to move Z up, so G65, P9810, Z10, so it's just going to make sure the probe's sitting at 10mm, speed rate of 5 meters a minute. Insert. So it's going to move the probe up above the job. We've changed this at P9812. We now need to change the value. So the value is going to be 65 or greater. So because we're not using a stop or anything, I'm going to make that 80. The reason I'm making it 80 is because that's going to allow me about 7.5mm either side of the job, of where I put it in the vise, to compensate for the extra length, we can increase that Q value to 20, so that'll travel the probe 20 millimetres before it alarms out saying it hasn't detected the edge. In here also, because we're teaching a male part, we need to put a Z movement in. So Z movement can be minus 1.5 as we did above. So that'll allow the probe to come across and down and touch the side of the job. It'll then level back to 0, then go to the positive side, travel down to minus 1.5 and then touch the edge of the job. From there, just check everything else is okay. It's travelling up to Z100, that's all good. And then you're ready to set the job away.